Should be live on YouTube, live in the virtual trading floor. Oops, apologies about being a couple minutes late. We got to do a quick one today. So we got Josh Leffler on Conversations with a Pro Trader at 4:30. I'm an associate member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA. All of my trades are placed through T3 Trading Group. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. There's a position disclosure. I got out of Amazon, I got out of Apple, I got out of Unity yesterday, but got back in and then got back out. Got out of KRE. Entered a Carvana short, and I got into a little Lucid again. Cool. So let's hop over here to the charts. Let's just do a quick update for maybe 10 minutes or so. So strong day today. SPYs are up 0.85%. Qs are up 1.3%. IWM is up 1.1%. So pretty strong day. It really all came from the CPI move. So let's pull up a pre-market chart. So CPI came in light across the board, 3% versus expectations of 3.1%. Core was light, month over month was light, all by a little bit, but it was enough to really rip this market higher. And for once, I actually think that JP Morgan I feel like has been wrong on their predictor numbers for CPI as far as the move every single time. And I think JP Morgan was actually right today. I think they said if it came in at like 3% that the market would be up about a percentage point or so, and they were actually accurate here for once. But you can see in the pre-market chart, 8:30 number hits, rip higher. We were doing the morning meeting right as this higher low hit that led to a higher high, and then once the market opened, Qs and IWM actually look somewhat similar. We basically spent the entire day digesting it. It was a little bit sloppy. The rollover at noon was a little bit scary, but we bounced back from it. The bounce back was led by the Qs. The Qs were generally more relatively strong today, which is actually what we were looking for. The IWM was a little bit weaker off the open, but also mainly spent the entire day consolidating. Switching over to the daily charts real quick. SPYs are getting a little bit extended, but it's not extreme. We are above our more recent 444 resistance for the SPYs, so things are generally looking bullish, but we got to pay attention to our extension rules, make sure we don't get ahead of ourselves. The Qs here closed above this 372 to 373 daily chart resistance, and the IWM actually broke out yesterday, gapped up further today. The discussion in the morning meeting was basically the IWM was borderline getting overly extended as we measure it based on the space between the 8 and 21 EMA as our equilibrium zone. So the Russell is actually starting to get a little bit overextended. Not fully there yet compared to how we look at the 8 and 21 EMA, but if you factor in that, this rally didn't just start at the 8 EMA and get extended. This rally started actually well below those moving averages. We've gone from 180.72 to today's high of 193. $12 up move basically in the IWM in a very short period of time. So the Russell did seem to be getting a little bit ahead of itself, though obviously there's been a lot of good news. Breadth has improved, even though the rebalance from earlier this week is primarily going to affect NASDAQ stocks. I think it just helped to add broader strengthening to the smaller companies that are out there. And this was getting a bit ahead of itself. So the charts that we identified this morning as probably some of the best looking charts again were actually these FANG names. And that's because the Qs were least extended and the FANG Magnificent 7 stocks were also the least extended because that rotation had added weakness over the last couple of days. So on the one hand, you've had a little bit of relative weakness because of the rebalance rotation that's come in. On the other hand, it actually made the charts the best actual setups, because it's like one of my issues when I was doing my research is a little bit of an extreme example, but if I'm looking at Roku this morning, I'm like, man, can't buy this thing. There's no long setup there. And the short side of the market we have to be kind of careful about because the market is so bullish and isn't really at that point of massive extension where we can feel really comfortable starting to build into shorts. But a lot of charts here, if you look at a Roku, if you look at a Carvana, which I did end up fighting to the short side. The long situation on these, the trade is pretty much entirely gone. But if you look at Meta's chart, Meta looked great, right? So Meta's on the list for this morning as a long versus 298. It was one of the better ones. Another one of the better ones was NVIDIA. We had NVIDIA on here as a long versus 428 on a tight breakout for continuation there. Apple wasn't quite as good. Amazon was decent, but still failed to break through that 130, 150. But for the most part, these FANG names were really where it's at. Tesla, they sold that Tesla that hard during the day today? I didn't actually realize that. Tesla not as good. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Meta and NVIDIA were pretty big focuses from this morning. Some of the best looking charts that were out there, and they just gave fantastic follow through. So if you caught that, fantastic. For my own trading, I was actually being relatively cautious today, all things considered, just with where we were opening. I wanted to see how the small time frame extension gets satisfied, which basically got satisfied through time in the beginning of the day. I wanted to see where the relative strength, relative weakness was. But my thought process was like, on the one hand, we've had such a big move that I don't feel comfortable doing a lot of long buying, though some of those FANG names look pretty good. And we're not quite to the spot where I want to be heavily shorting, even though I did get into quite the battle on the short side with Carvana today. So for the most part, I was really kind of taking it easy. TOST, I still had some from yesterday. I was able to manage that pretty well. I liquidated that position into the close. That was a good one. Unity, I bought the dip on near lows at one point, traded a little bit, but got out relatively quickly. I made a few bucks in this RXRX, actually, which I mentioned it when I got involved. I feel like those names that are gapping up 100% or whatever, when I trade them, I think I tend to not do well with them. So I specifically made sure I said that. But it worked out okay. I was basically going long versus 10 bucks and caught this move. I trailed it pretty tight, so I got stopped out into this little push here at 11.55. So I missed the last leg of the move, but it was still a decent little trade. Outside of that, it was mainly managing my swings and then getting into a battle with Carvana. I've been doing this every day, and on the one hand, I feel like it's not great trading. I've been coming in and shorting the strongest names in the market. I've been going after like Roku yesterday, Carvana today. There's been different names like that I've been doing, like one name every day. It seems like primarily as a day trade, though I did keep Carvana a little bit to the short side overnight here, just because of how extended it still is in the daily chart, and it seems like it had upside capitulation today. So I figured I'd keep a little bit to see if I can get a further pull tomorrow. It's just such hard trading. I keep kind of saying that every day. I once again started too early and was still able to make money. It was the same thing with Roku yesterday, and I've only got like 3-4 minutes here. Roku yesterday I was able to make a little bit of money, but I started too early. Carvana I was able to make a little bit of money, but I started too early, and my sizing is what has saved me in both of those. Like Roku yesterday, I started way too early, right? I started I think at 74-ish on the way up, but I was just starting very, very small, very minimally small, almost as small as I can be, and and then I was getting the signals, and I was coming in really at the right spot and putting the short on. And Carvana was similar today. I shorted it pretty early into this breakout when I was looking for this RDR that never actually came in, but I was very, very light initially. Even being very light though, I held a smaller core position all the way from like $38 to $45 through to $44.50 to highs. So even though I did very well with this as it peaked out, and this is where I traded it aggressively, this is where I got heavy, I was down a pretty good chunk of change by the time I got up there. This is very difficult trading. I need Pat back ASAP because he helps me with my patience. He helps me be involved at the right time. I feel like he's not around, and I've been being a little too early on these things, and it's made the short much more stressful for me than it may be otherwise if I had him, helping me with a good team effort. But I was able to, really add some size here and kind of catch this pullback, and You know, this seemed like upside capitulation to me as this big volume was kind of coming in, and they had this final hurrah squeeze here, and then it ended up, you know, closing with a pretty big upside tail. Ideally, I would have loved to close below yesterday's high to give me some confirmation. There's certainly room in this thing down to the 80 MA on the daily chart, though, after this big tail. So a pull down to, you know, $33 in this thing, I think is very reasonable. I really just want to see if I can make a few more bucks on it. I'm not going to be super greedy on it if it moves in my direction. And that's pretty much it. I don't really have time for questions. We got to switch over to Josh. Let me read the couple questions that are in here, and I'll, you know, see if I can give like a 2-second answer. And if I can't, I'll just ask you to re-ask the question tomorrow. From Eddie Webb. My question on Carvana, at 108 I got short at 41.90. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this. At 108 I got short, okay. At 41.90 with my stop at 42.45, okay. That was the high of the day. It just didn't work. I'm okay with that. My thoughts were the 80 MA on the daily. Yeah, you didn't have the extension on the 5-minute to get excited about, though. I really prefer to initiate these shorts in a big way when you get the extension on the small time frame. And I'm sure you got deeper parts of your question there. All right, Rex is going to save his question for tomorrow. I'm sure you got deeper parts of your question, but that's going to kind of be my quick answer. You got to be real careful with these things, especially when they're in an upside grind. And I'm saying it yesterday. You know, the bullish option flow in Roku, when that was coming in so repetitively, you know, when you're seeing that bullish option flow come in and you're on the other side of it and it's repetitive flow, it's usually not a good sign. You really don't want to be fighting consistent flow. And this is just a very hard trade, and it could have squeezed up to 50 today because the short float is big enough. So it's just going to have to be my quick answer for you today. If you want more detail on it, I would just ask you to re-ask the question tomorrow. And then real quick from Tate, bought back into Bank of America where I got stopped out of the trailing position around 29.50. Yep, that sounds right. I think I bought 29.51. It was my last 100 shares of my position, so the risk was covered a few days ago. Just wondering if I had the right idea for a trailer on the daily time frame with the gap in your favor. You've been trailing this for a couple of days. I think your stop loss should still be your original stop loss. There is no spot here to raise your stop yet based on the daily chart. And if I am committing to keeping a position overnight, I'm committing to trailing it based on my same specific trailing rules, just off of the actual daily chart. So I want a higher low to come in with the 80 MA catches up to on the daily chart that leads to a new high, and then I can raise my stop. That's going to have to be the quick answer, Tate. Again, if you want a more detailed answer, just ask in tomorrow's afternoon meeting. I'll be happy to help out. I got to wrap up there. Josh is going to be doing Conversations with a Pro Trader with Greta Wall in 3 minutes. Highly encourage everyone to jump over to that. I will post a link into the VTF here in one moment once I end this meeting. So have a great night, everybody, and I'll see you all